Chris Jenkins. Next video, talking about alien races in the Bible. Okay, the next ones are going to be talking about the Anak in particular. The Anak are the Anunnaki. Okay, they're listed 18 times in the Old Testament. 18 times. That's quite a few. I'm just going to read them word for word. You decide for yourself what it means. Of course, you're going to get a lot of debate about this particular subject. Churches will tell you that they were some sort of disfigured people whose last name was Anak that had gigantism. Except gigantism doesn't cause six fingers on hands. So, of course, if you're familiar with the Sumerian story, you know that these were the beings that came here and messed with our DNA. So, you compare these to the Sumerian account. There are two books that I recommend called the Atrahasis and the Enuma Elish. They are Sumerian books. You can find them on sacredtexts.com. They're free to download, free to read. I recommend you read them. The Enuma Elish talks about the creation of our solar system and planetary bodies. And when that book ends, the Bible begins. I'm going to repeat that. When the Enuma Elish ends, talking about the structure of our solar system, that's right where the Bible picks up. I'm going to get more into that in the next video, talking about what the grand plan is and what the cycle is all about. However, here we're talking about the Anunnaki, and I'm just going to read them word for word. Numbers 13:22, and they ascended by the south and came unto Hebron, where Ahiman, Sashai, and Talmai, the children of the Anak, were. The children of the Anak, that's children of the Anunnaki. Numbers 13:28, nevertheless the people be strong that dwell in the land, and the cities are walled and very great. And moreover, we saw the children of Anak there. Numbers 13:33, and there we saw the giants, the sons of Anak, which came of the giants. And we were in our own sight as grasshoppers, as so we were in their sight. So in comparison, these guys were as big. You know, they were huge, they were giants. And in comparison, the actual humans compared themselves as grasshoppers. That's pretty big. Deuteronomy 1:28, whither shall we go up? Our brethren have discouraged our hearts, saying, the people is greater and taller than we. The cities are great and walled up to heaven. And moreover, we have seen the sons of the Anakims there. Okay, now, throughout history, as cultures come and go, these words change. So you get the Anak, and then right here, the word changes to Anakims. Now, right after the Sumerian culture came the Akkadian culture. And with the Akkadians came some changes in terminology and different words. Moving on. Deuteronomy 2:10, the Emims dwelt therein in past times, a people great and many and tall as the Anakims. So there again is another change of wording. The next scripture goes into more detail about that. Deuteronomy 2:11, which also were accounted giants as the Anakims, but the Moabites called them Emims. So once again, it's a prime example of how different cultures come in and change the words. So it goes from Anak to Anakims to Emims. So all three of those terms are talking about the same beings, the Anunnaki. Deuteronomy 2:21, a people great and tall and many as the Anakims, but the Lord destroyed them before them. And they succeeded them and dwelt in their stead. So that means they were here before, the Lord destroyed them, they come back and continued to go. So their seed or their race or their bloodline was not wiped out. Moving on. Deuteronomy 9:2, a people great and tall, the children of the Anakims, whom thou knowest and whom thou hast heard say, who can stand before the children of the Anak? So there again, Anakims, Anak, same thing. Joshua 11:21, and at that time came Joshua and cut off the Anakims from the mountains. So there again is another mention of the Anak. Anak, Anakims, Emims. It's all the same thing. It's the Anunnaki. And they're mentioned in the Old Testament 18 times. There you go. So now let's shift gears a little bit and get off the Anunnaki. We're going to talk about additional races or additional beings that were mentioned in addition to them. Jeremiah 4:16, make ye mention to the nations, behold, publish against Jerusalem, that watchers come from a far country, and give out their voice against the cities of Judah. the watchers that come from a far country. Daniel 4:13, I saw in the visions of my head upon my bed, and behold, a watcher and a holy one came down from heaven. Now, that one in particular, and there's two more after this, that mention watchers and holy ones. And it always mentions them together. Now, that one kind of hit home for me because of what I saw. I believe the watchers are the two grays that follow me around. I believe they were called watchers because, like the two did with me through my window at night, they watch. And they have big black eyes. So you can imagine, living back in that day, seeing something like that staring at you or whatever, whether it's a trance or a dreamlike state. How would you describe that? And I think watchers is a very good term. I think that's what they clung to. That's what they decided to call them. So Daniel 4:17, this matter is by decree of the watchers and the demand by the word of the holy ones. Now those two watchers, or the grays, when they took me into a room where I saw a tall white. And I believe the holy ones are the tall whites, whether that be Nordic, Pleiadians. Like I said, when cultures come and go, you get different terminology, you get different words. I believe what Daniel saw was the exact same thing that many other people have seen here, grays and tall whites. Daniel 4:23, and whereas the king saw a watcher and a holy one coming down from heaven. So there's many instances of that. That's 4 scriptures that talk about watchers and holy ones, and that matches exactly what I saw. All right, next one is Hebrews 13:2, and this is talking about a totally different group. It says, be not forgetful to entertain strangers, for thereby some have entertained angels unaware. So what that means is there are some that look just like us. I don't know if those are people that have been taken, like humans, or some sort of different genetic line, or some sort of shape-shifting beings, but there are some that look like us. And in particular, the two angels that go and visit Lot, that tell Lot to flee Sodom and Gomorrah because God's going to destroy it, that's a very interesting story too. I recommend you look that up because they eat food with Lot. And the story's very odd. They walk into the city. A crowd of the city of Sodom and Gomorrah notice them and immediately find them attractive and try to rape them. So these two angels hurry up to Lot's house. Lot invites them in, shuts the door, eats food with them. And in particular, it was unleavened bread. So unleavened bread, that's the first mention of it in the Bible. And unleavened bread is bread without yeast. So as I was looking that up and I was reading more about that, I heard a voice in my head that clear as a bell that says, look up yeast in space. I have no idea where the voice came from, but it's one of those instances where I was led to particular information because I didn't even think to look that up. It just popped into my brain. Now, I know it wasn't my thought. I know it was planted there, almost like it was downloaded. So I look up yeast in space, and it's very easy. You can look it up too. Look up yeast infections in space, and it will take you to a NASA website that says that they have done experiments along those lines. And if an astronaut has yeast in their system, when they're in orbit or space, they develop yeast infections because yeast grows uncontrollably in space. So if you have yeast in your system, like you eat something with bread or whatever, you'll get yeast infections of your mouth, your throat, your stomach, esophagus, the whole 9 yards. So that tells me that these angels were from space, they were returning to space, and they simply did not want yeast in their system upon going back. So that means physical in nature and very similar to us. Now also too, in that story about Lot, it does not say anywhere that these angels swap back and forth from flesh to spirit or spirit to flesh. It does not say that. So in my estimation, my conclusion is that they were physical in nature, they were from space, and they were returning to space. Now this raised a question for me. That means in my head that heaven is space. So I started researching that, and sure enough, there's a scripture that says, behold, I clothe the heavens in darkness. Blackness, I think is what it says. Blackness. I make sackcloth their covering. So what that means is heaven is black. Heaven is space. Sackcloth is a cloth that they used when they were mourning the dead, so it was black. So there you have it. alien races in the Bible. Angels are physical, not spirit. And I will be back for the next video. My time's running out. Gotta go. Thanks for listening. Bye.